Shapiro and Tucker Carlson expose the mainstream media for censoring conservative voices. Here's more.
The mainstream media seems to be once again doing the Democrats' dirty work to censor conservatives. And Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro are exposing those efforts. Both of them have shared a text exchange they had with New York Times reporter Nico Grant. Grant asked Carlson and Shapiro to comment on a piece the Times is writing about political commentators' discussions about the 2024 election on YouTube. Grant highlights they're relying on information provided by left-wing advocacy group Media Matters, a self-proclaimed media watchdog, which has really just built itself around boycotting conservatives and suppressing their voices. Shapiro saw through the ploy, instantly accusing the New York Times of working with Media Matters in order to silence anyone opposing Kamala Harris on YouTube. Shapiro says it's perfectly obvious that the Times is using research from Media Matters in order to pressure YouTube to demonetize and penalize any and all conservatives just 1 week before the election. In those texts, Grant says Media Matters has identified 286 YouTube videos posted between May and August that supposedly contained, quote, election misinformation, including narratives that have been debunked and are not supported with credible evidence. They pointed to this statement made by Shapiro in June, just before the debate between Trump and Joe Biden, and in context, Shapiro was giving Trump debate advice on how to deal with Biden's inevitable go-to when he gets into a bind, January 6th.
He believes that this is his get-out-of-jail-free card. His ReElect card is just saying January 6th over and over and over. Threat to our democracy, terrorist insurrection. And what Donald Trump needs to say is, listen, Joe, you and I disagree on what happened in the 2020 election. I, for example, think that your party rigged many of the voting rules in advance of the election in order to ensure an extraordinary number of mail-in ballots, ballot harvesting. I think that you worked with the media in order to prevent the dissemination of a story about Hunter Biden's laptop in the last month of the election, and you and your son, knowing that the laptop was real, lied about it to the American people. We can disagree about what happened in 2020, but none of that matters to the American people, because right now the calendar reads 2024.
Defending that clip, Shapiro says if election misinformation means pointing out the rigging of voting rules in 2020, leading to unprecedented mail-in voting and ballot harvesting, then the New York Times might want to talk to CBS, or even look at articles the Times wrote themselves. CBS noted that California allowed any person, not just a relative or a housemate, to collect absentee ballots, and operatives can be paid for ballot harvesting in California, but their compensation can't be calculated based on the number of ballots they collect. Shapiro says whether it's actually misinformation or not isn't the point. To be the target of Media Matters and the New York Times' push for censorship, you just have to support Trump. Their hypocrisy knows no bounds. As Shapiro points out, the legacy media shut down the Hunter Biden laptop story in 2020 and laundered the claim it was Russian disinformation. But now, he says, they're even more brazen, openly trying to intimidate YouTube to shut down anyone who isn't pro-Kamala. So Shapiro says if the New York Times wants a comment, here it is. Kindly go yourself. Tucker Carlson shared almost the exact same text sent to him, and his reply was the same. I told you to go off. Carlson clarified the obvious endgame in his reply to Grant, that the New York Times is working with a left-wing hate group to silence critics of the Democrat Party. One American News has been the target of these attacks from Media Matters for years. In fact, they put out 370 articles from 2020 to 2023 and dedicated a single writer, Bobby Lewis, to focus specifically on OAN. Just look at some of their headlines. One American News' racist falsehoods undermine DirecTV's appeals for racial justice. AT&T funding OAN's incendiary misogyny and virulent anti-abortion tirades. Cable providers beware. OAN's new lawsuit against DirecTV is another example of its recklessness. OAN loses DirecTV. It continues pushing anti-vaccine lies and conspiracy theories. DirecTV to drop One American News following call from Media Matters. OAN continues its unhinged attack against Verizon while flailing for a new carrier. Roku offers all the hate and conspiracies rampant on One American News to 63 million Americans for free. OAN is flooding Instagram with hate speech and misinformation. One American News has been demonetized on YouTube for nearly 4 years over similar attacks from left-wing media. And it all started with a coordinated effort to silence OAN during the 2020 election. This is something that Tucker Carlson asked One America's Dan Ball about.
How are government officials trying to shut down your news organization?
Go back to 2020. Let's start with the reporting on the Hunter Biden laptop.
Yes.
And what did they tell us back then? The laptop was Russian disinformation. You had those 50-some ex-intelligence community people say it was misinformation, disinformation,
liars.
Russian propaganda, yes, sir. And we aired it. They looked at us and went, oh my God, these guys are going to interfere with the election because we're spitting truth to power. We're telling you this laptop is real. The big guy's Joe Biden. He's taking 10%. He's used his family and his influence to make millions, to enrich himself. Well, they didn't like that very much.
No.
It was kind of cascading downward from the Hunter Biden laptop story to COVID coverage, and then we had the 2020 election. YouTube demonetized us, and so they scared away advertisers. They got us kicked off multiple carriers, Frontier, Verizon, DirecTV, everything.
Sitting members of Congress tried to get a news channel kicked off the air and bankrupted.
Yes. We're not state-run TV, right?
It's against the law to do that.
Well, does this regime care? Look what the Biden regime's been doing to this country.
While OAN may have been a target of Media Matters early on, others like Tucker and Shapiro are shining light. Even Elon Musk has filed a lawsuit against them for going out of its way to misrepresent that X put ads from big companies next to Nazi content, claims that independent research couldn't verify. Musk's lawyers said Media Matters should be held liable for the loss of ads on X. The trial is expected to take place April 2025. In response to the latest efforts to get Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro, Musk himself called Media Matters a radical left propaganda machine. Zach Petersen, One American News.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.